maneuver.
So the Atlanta Regional has come and gone. We had a fairly diverse showing, I would say. I know there was someone, there was a little bit of negativity from some people about, I guess how fleshed out the format is, but there's 11 different characters in Top Cuts. Some of the characters are being played on different symbols. And I'll tell you one thing that I was really looking out for. I was really curious how many of the symbols that decks were focused on were going to be symbols from Attack on Titan. So the 6 symbols that are attuned symbols do have a lot of preference towards like what characters you play, but because you don't have to play that symbol to get these new Attack on Titan cards, I was pretty curious how it was going to shake out, and it looks like for the most part it's a lot of death decks, and there are quite a few decks that are Attack on Titan symbols besides that, but for the most part it looks like people are playing a non-AOT symbol and utilizing access to those attuned cards, because we do have an Earth deck with Mothra. We've got all symbol, void symbol, void symbol. So that's 4 right there altogether. The Byakko deck does have 2 attuned symbols, but is playing Earth, right? So five decks there. Another all symbol deck for Ryukyu. That seems to be a fairly recent pivot, but Ryukyu has 2 non-AOT symbols and tops with the Earth build there. And then we've got Evil King Ghidorah, which seems to be the most popular. So it's about half and half, and I think that's actually really cool. Again, it's kind of weird because I guess the real thing to look at now is how many of these characters have more than one attuned symbol, because one of the things that they did really well with Attack on Titan was they made sure that pretty much every character, I think there's 2 that don't have an attuned symbol. They just got like nothing. And I'm not going to point out which characters they are, but they're not characters people are playing. Like, let's just be real. But so pretty much every character has at least one. So it's not too big of a deal, right, if they're playing a non-AOT symbol. But I think that's cool. That being said, we only had 2 Smilings in tops, but Rodan had 3 showings, which I'm a little surprised about. But Rodan is still like this really solid, defensive monster that can force damage through. So he's probably going to stick around for a while if they don't do something major to Rodan himself. I don't think it's the kind of character where you can touch parts of the deck, unless you strip away really important defensive staples or maybe supersonic flight. I bet you, though, if they take away supersonic flight, they'll just play more card draw somewhere else. Maybe incubating isn't as important. So, other than that, I don't think there was any real surprising characters. The most for me, maybe Byakko. But Byakko makes sense in my head, right? If you think of the format as having a triangle at the top, I would never say it's a 3-deck format. I don't think it ever really has been. We might have had like a 1-deck format for a very brief period of time, but I don't think we've ever had a true triangle format. But if you think of it as such, right, it's obviously Smiling Titan on the aggressive side, it's Rodan on the defensive side, and then the character who I think plays really well into both of them is Byakko. So I think if you guys watched Tam Cardwell's stream, Byakko did a really good job of using Referee Jury and 38 health to outlast the Smiling Titans and to punish them with really big backswings. Cards like Invincible Body aren't that impressive when you can just put 5 damage back on top of it. So I thought that was really cool. It didn't surprise me too much. That is actually a Vegas local too. I didn't even know he was going to be there. So it's kind of a funny story. But yeah, the Byakko has to be the most surprising. Eren Yeager a little bit, but I think we've seen Eren Yeager top before. So it's not like we haven't seen Byakko top before. So nothing super new, nothing crazy, which I think is what people are maybe hemming and hawing about. But Erwin Smith was definitely not talked about too much and given the respect that I think, I mean, now it obviously deserves. I did know Will Howard had an absolutely fantastic Irwin Smith deck, but he works with Universe's games, so he can't really go about spreading the good word, right? He can just jam some games with people in his off time and hope that they like his deck, uh, which it has been really cool. But I think, giving a defensive flair to the combined firepower Death Yahtzee style build was definitely the way to go. Mothra is kind of like Byakko in that I don't think anyone was playing Mothra. I don't think it had any results. But as soon as you see the character choice, and especially you see the player on it, it does make sense, right? It does make sense, and it is really cool. Mothra is one of the characters that was most talked about when the Titan attacks were first showed off. But then we didn't really see a lot of activity. I didn't see too many people talking about playing the character. I definitely tried Mothra on release, but I did not revisit Mothra in Attack on Titan, right? And Shishi Wakamaru too, I think might be in that boat where if a Shishi Wakamaru deck made a top 16, I don't think it'd really be too surprising, but when's the last time you saw someone post a Shishi Wakamaru deck list and was trying to work on it, right? So, yeah, the Mothra format might be coming. I don't know. Some refinement to the deck could definitely come around, and Mothra's got, another really good symbol in the good symbol, so we'll see with maybe the Dark Deku, the Vigilante Deku. Is it really called Dark I guess it's Dark Hero Art. Anyway, with the new Challenger decks coming out, I wouldn't be surprised if Mothra gets something really nice. Other than that, I was a little surprised Ryukyu did still do good. The deck is super solid. I just feel like similar to when people got off the train with the Capture Evil Doers ban, I thought maybe she wasn't steamrolling people with vertical maneuvering equipment the way that some players might have expected or even whined about publicly. But it is still a great deck. And so let's start with Elizabeth Drake, 16th place, Earth Ryukyu. So I like to sort by difficulty. I hope that's acceptable for a lot of people out there. So going to the attack lineup first, Titanic Leap is the big giant attack that Ryukyu got, or at least the one with enough speed to want to run it. And this one does a lot of work. Running 3 of it makes a lot of sense because you can't really play too many copies of it. And the +1 mid block's not maybe the thing we need the most. So only 3 copies also really makes sense when we look at the fact that there is Dragon Impact. So we are playing 4 of the 2-check, and I've gone in a big circle where I was really happy that it seemed like we didn't have to play the 2-check anymore, and I definitely felt better playing the deck with like a defensive mindset and no 2-check. But I also noticed that my offense was pretty lackluster, especially since I wasn't focusing on having an excess amount of speed pumps. I was trying to mostly play the zone mix-up game plan, so seeing the Dragon Impact come back is pretty nice. There's definitely some characters that you would want to commit in this format. Unfortunately, I feel like if Rodan was not playable while committed, I think Ryukyus would love playing Dragon Impact. So if we do see an update after these regionals and Rodan keeps doing really well, and we see a hit to Rodan, I think I might like to see it be that he's not playable while committed, and so Dragon Impact and Blood Curdle decks and 100% power decks maybe have a game plan into him, and then you can see this Ryukyu deck bump up pretty hard, I think. Armor of the Wolf is another finisher here. Great way to spend all this momentum. This is something else that my deck wasn't particularly running because I would play the all symbol, and so I was really feeling it. I thought about even playing like a Patchwork Baby, but it doesn't have the stats that Armor of the Wolf has, so this deck definitely packs a punch. We don't really have to talk about the blank attacks because these are the 8 attacks, 12 attacks you're going to see in every Ryukyu deck. 3 vertical maneuvering equipment makes sense. Referee Jury, huge here, and you can see another one in the sideboard. I am a little surprised that we don't have a 3 or 4 copies, you know, not fully committing to the silver bullet strategies is probably not where I would find myself, but it obviously worked out for them, meaning that they've had solid defense, right? They had a really good, maybe not mid-range game plan, but they definitely had a really good defensive run to get to top 16. But I personally think that it is not wrong to have 4 juries in some combination on this list. Looking at the 2 defending pageant queen and the 2 in the sideboard, that's something I would be looking at, you know, for the juries. But the big thing about having pageant queen is it goes in the stage. So when the rival's playing those big Titan attacks, they know that they have to play through the pageant queen, and they might even have cards that can interact with it. But then we also saw Koenma's task in the Smiling Titan decks that went really deep. So maybe referee jury is a little more of a liability than I'm thinking of. But I love the battle for the future. I absolutely love this here because in the same vein as referee jury, this is, you know, that big Genkai style answer, and we're playing a character who can really afford it. And I don't think people are expecting this card. So I think Battle of the Future is what's replacing our referee jury, and I like it. I like it a lot. You know, referee jury, you still got to take some damage, you know, at least if you want to draw the card. But you're really, you know, you're likely to take some damage, and it is going to sit in the card pool, you know, and they get the enhanced step. And Battle for the Future says none of that. So I love this adaptation, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more Ryukyus steal this strategy. 4 vast strength makes sense. Incredible display is a big deal. Carpool to work is another great reason to play the Earth build. I know that like Life was way more popular before. All Symbols getting kind of popular with the Dramatic Slash, and we'll see if that's the case with the other Ryukyu build. I have no idea what they're playing, but Carpool to work is insanely good when you get to take it from your hand and put it to your momentum. It's pretty much never a dead card, and when you block with it, you're pretty much always going to have a momentum to clear your card pool, right, and add it back to momentum. So this is a really nice tech. I expect a lot of Earth Ryukyus to play this card, and if you're not, you absolutely should be. Childhood, for instance, another really cool one. Pretty much all these attacks are going to share 2 symbols. All your really important ones do. And Dragon Impact and Armor of the Wolf are both powerful attacks, so even the mill to burn your rival for one's not a dead effect. We got our blank cards. Shobujin's Message. The Shobujin's Message as a one-of is something I do a lot. I think maybe we should be playing more, but I don't know. But seeing it as a one-of for unique makes a lot of sense, and I can get behind it. Got our card draw going. We got our more blanks, so Refreshing Blend is also a really great momentum dump. So this deck definitely had all of its bases covered, except we don't have any repeatable speed hate, it looks like. So we're relying a lot on, you know, clearing our card pool with our blocks and vertical maneuvering equipment as our repeatable speed hate. None of it's in the foundations, but all in all, Ryukyu's a really solid deck right now, and this deck has great answers to a lot of things with the ability to remove blitz abilities and the ability to cancel responses. But I really think it's this Battle for the Future tech that I want to see get adapted into more decks going forward. So really, really cool stuff for the top 16. Let's take a look at 15th place. We've got Mackenzie St. Laurent on Chaos Godzilla, so 3 City Rampage. All right, got the Walk the Dog, Determined Advance. This one I talked about on commentary. This is the card that when I first saw it, I went, "Oh, that's a Godzilla card." It's got EX, which is something that Godzillas need to close games out. Its speed can't be reduced below 6, which is huge. That's a big number. And then it just gives you momentum when you play it. So having the 6 difficulty might not be ideal. I know Godzilla's really looking for just 5 diffs, you know, or Walk the Dog, you know, things that are printed above but get below 5. But Determined Advance as a 4 of is a really nice addition to this deck. Smashing Stomp is a staple. Gently Theft. More Godzilla's definitely got to get on Gently Theft. If you're not on this, it's another great way to spend your momentum. I know we want to pass our checks a lot of the time, but Godzilla doesn't necessarily need to play an enhance during a lot of these attacks. That continuous ability for +3 damage means that Gently Theft is for 11. And I love that we have 4 Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. We need to clear the way. We need to freeze, commit those invincible bodies, commit those capes. Just this is the problem solver, and it gets the full Godzilla benefit. I don't see why you wouldn't play it. Also, once you hit with one of these, or if we have other ways, I'm looking really quick. We don't have other ways to put it in momentum, but once you hit with one of these, this is speed pumping, and that Godzilla really likes. So, love for this. Unmatched power is real scary. Once you get that EX going, once you get your opponent committed out, walk the dog for what, 17? This is a 2-tapper button. This is not unique either. Now you can't do it twice on the same attack. It is a first enhance, but you can have 2 ready to go. So this one I haven't played a lot of myself. I'm seeing it more and more, and when you've got these printed 8 difficulty moves, you can't commit out in front of an unmatched power. It is for like a third of your life total when used properly. I think 3 History's Greatest Monster is really interesting here. This is definitely the foundation I think I want to see the most in this deck. It works when I play attacks. It works when I block. It works when I play City Rampage, which is a big deal. I'd really like to know the thought process on only having the 3. Maybe it's just not been that impactful for them. I know that this isn't like a 4 checks build, so playing too many 3 divs does get in the way. And I bet is this 60 cards? 62? Yeah, interesting. I really feel like going to 63 to get what I think is my best foundation, my deadlock win condition, because there's not a lot going on through deadlock here. Oh, we do have Force Quirk. I take it back. Force Quirk does add Vast Hybrid. Wow, we have 3. Interesting. All right. So, anyways, I think the History's Greatest Monster is just the thing that's done the most work for me in a Godzilla deck. But obviously, they're not having trouble passing their checks, and we tried to slim down because we're not running 4C Rampage either, which I can get behind. It gets a little clunky for a 600. Titanic Combat is a cool way to ramp. Elasticity makes a lot of sense. I like these interactive cards. I like the ability to cancel stun. We're canceling breaker. We're canceling abilities on assets. Force Quirk has a 3 of. I guess it's just, destroy for +2 to a check at some point. Having momentum is very, very important here, but obviously, the Vast Hybrid target has to be the number 1, right? This is not like a Black Abyss build. So with all these quirk activations, I'm really curious if having like 3 Black Abyss and spreading out these ratios a bit wouldn't be better, just to have another target to get something face up. That does give speed, it'll probably only give 1 speed a lot of the time, but once you do get 2 of them in there, you're right. If you have 1 Black Abyss, Force Quirk adding a 2nd Black Abyss is way better than adding 1 Vast Hybrid, so I don't know. But I bet that there was a version of their deck that did have Black Abyss, and that's where this whole strategy comes from. That's where there's 3 of this unique 4 check. We've got a discard and draw effect. We got draw effects. We got draw effects. Master's Pride, of course, another way to ready foundation. So definitely we're not hurting for passing checks if we got a good build in the first turn. We got Monster Aggression for more 1/1s. I like it a lot. It's simple, it's clean, it's efficient. It's got 34 health in a format where Smiling Titan exists. Very good stuff. We're not seeing anything super revolutionary, but the 4 Gently Theft. I think 4 Gently Theft is not something other Godzillas are on. And this is, again, our deadlock game plan is essentially give something throw and then rip your hand up with a flash attack that you can't respond to. So very nice Deadlock effects, maybe could use one or two more, but I bet the game doesn't go that long. And of course, Godzilla's anti-deadlock on his face, so that's not too bad. But I always have a better stage than my opponent, so I'm just not that good at using the board wipe. I wonder how many times this got activated throughout the tournament by Mackenzie. Either way, very cool stuff. Love the determined advance. Love the vast hybrid. This is definitely a Godzilla shell that new players looking to play Godzilla should take a look at. Next up, we got Himiko Toga 3 on the death symbol. So when I saw this on stream, I think it was Mike Benton. When I saw Death Toga on stream, I first thought Toga 3 would be Chaos with some really nice death-attuned cards. But it turned out to be Death, and I was a little bummed out at first. It's got the risky, of course. Of course it does. It's a weapon, of course. And it stuns, Toga stuff. But it's also a combined firepower deck. We got a lot of hits, a lot of jackpot cards, and I was a little bummed out because it seemed like any death deck can be doing the Yahtzee thing. We got a lot of 5 diffs, but one of them leaves our card pool. One of them's not really a 5 diff, right? So it did make me feel like there was a lot of the sameness happening, but at the same time, this deck is very different from a lot of the other combined firepower decks. I think my initial poo-poo was that combined firepower is a strategy that can just be shoehorned in any other type of deck, but this is a deck that's playing a lot of really interesting choices. The attack lineup just kind of makes sense. It's got the big stun moves. It's got momentum ramp, which Toga's all about anyways. It's got a lot of consistency pieces and mill pieces, so it just makes sense. Now, one thing that's really crazy is I think this is the first time I've seen multi-needle puncture in a deck list, and it's EX3, and it's, about 7 damage for a 4 div, so if you look at it as 3 mid 7 EX3, kind of like what, Swooping Talons, right? For a character that ramps momentum, I bet this did a lot more work than was expected of it. I definitely would not expect this card. I don't think I would be thinking of any EX moves besides dual needle lunge, right? Once I see it, because I'm so used to seeing the Chaos version, I think I would have gotten caught out by this deck. I think I would have gotten thrown off pretty hard. Because we have the mill sub theme, Knott's Flask comes in here too. This is not something I've seen in a lot of Toga decks before, even though it does have the Chaos symbol, right? But now we need more mill triggers, so I feel like this deck is so good at just opening you up, and eventually it will get to a board state where you can't block, right? You are committed out, and we can now start reliably putting our damage pumps on things like Knott's Flask, like the big heavy payoffs. But throughout this whole turn with combined firepowers and stuff like that, there's going to be crazy stats going everywhere. And so combined firepower kind of fixes this idea where after the very first attack, Toga doesn't really give impressive stats. And on the other hand too, that 3 speed early on in a game, or in a backswing situation, gives you a comfortable berth to go fishing and put all your firepower and all your synergy hits into it. So it's very, very cool to see. This was my finisher most games. Use the EX to remove something from momentum to start the firepower shenanigans. Okay. Yeah, okay. So that makes a lot of sense, right? I didn't even think of that. You can use Toga to put something like I'm with you in momentum, and then when you EX this out of momentum, it will trigger combined firepower. And since you EX'd to make it too fast to block, all the firepower damage is, reliable. We'll say guaranteed. That's very cool, actually. That and that's kind of where I was coming from before, right? Where it's very easy to take a glance at this format and go, oh well, it's just another firepower deck. But Toga's not a character that mills on her face, and Toga's not a character that destroys things or discards things. So it would seem like it's going so far out of its way, right, to do this strategy. But there's so many cool little interactions, and really the enters the discard pile wording is so flexible, right? It counts every different zone, so every time you're moving cards around, there's a pretty good chance you'll trigger one. That being said, I also like to see this meeting Hanji. I think this card is criminally underplayed right now. I think that Botan's coaching might be overshadowing it a little bit, but for the symbols, for the decks that can't play Botans, with this Attune symbol card, going down to 0 cards in hand and drawing 2 is great. Having just like a latent skill type effect where your rival can't cancel it and hose you is great, right? Even if your rival cancels this, it's not like latent skill where you had to discard the 2 cards. So I think meeting Hanji is really nice. I think we'll see this again in top cuts too, though. But this card has a lot of really, really nice spots you can be in the game with it, whether you're trying to be more aggressive or more defensive. This can just give you +2 hand size to be more defensive, or it can help you filter the same way latent skill does on aggressive turns. So very nice inclusion here. We've got all the good hits. Now, one thing I also love is Sports Festival Champ. I was ranting to so many people that I see all these death decks out here, and none of them are playing the counter to Invincible Body. And here it is, 2 copies in the main board. Invincible Body is everywhere. Referee Jury too, really. But damage reduction, like big reset damage moves, and big, reduced damage cards are pretty prevalent right now. If you thought people were going to play Rodan, they're probably playing Spooky. If you thought people were going to play Elder Taguro, right? They want to swap the stats around and things like that. So I thought this was really cool. It's also a good way when you have that big first poke move to protect the poke, right? So there was a lot of people I spoke to that said, hey, why are we not jamming this card when we know that resets are the name of the game? On top of that, I mean, if you're playing combined firepower and you whiff, you get maybe 1 hit, it gives you +1 damage repeatable. And yeah, as your point, yeah, that's a good point too. Sports Champ is also a discard outlet for the discard effects to get the combined firepower rolling, to get full value out of these cards that you probably don't necessarily want to build. Same thing with Deft Maneuvers, right? I am a little surprised to only see 2 Deft Maneuvers, but there's a lot of stuff we're trying to pack into the deck, so I get it. This one, I guess when we're in a world with Smiling Titans, destroying for just 1/1 isn't actually the biggest deal. But yeah, no, I love the Sports Festival Champ inclusion. At being able to discard the cards to get their effects as they enter the discard pile is just the cherry on top, right? Other than that, the vertical maneuvering equipment, this is another momentum ramping character, so I bet it was probably way harder to kill this Toga than all the Togas in previous formats. So vertical maneuvering equipment, I hope that came up a lot, because this card is nuts. This card is crazy good. One of the best momentum dumps, and even really, on your final attack, that +2 damage looks so good, right? Like, and again, we're talking about Toga 3, where sometimes you just need to cook up one big first attack, right? You go all in with it. You have 1 momentum. You've got Toga stats. You've got vertical maneuvering. That's like +6, +4. That's crazy good. So very nice stuff. Forcing Surrender, also very cool. Heads up synergy to discard combined firepower from your card pool. If for some reason you block with Avoiding Conflict, and then you discard it from the card pool with Forcing Surrender, you can remove avoiding conflict for -2 speed, and it's like you have a flip -3 speed card because you cleared the one progressive and you got -2 speed. So there's a lot of nice little interactions in this deck. And while I didn't think Toga 3 initially was going to be a great fit for this strategy, it turns out that there's a lot going on in the, you know, the 59, I'll say. What's the total? 71. So it's a big deck because we got a mill. But there's actually a lot of nice little interactions going on. Other than that, there's not too much to say. Other than we don't have a ton of like canceling interactions and things like that, but we do have the ability to seal rival foundations, which is nice. And we do have like a stat game that we can lean on with vertical maneuvering equipment. And also sometimes you just randomly hit -2 damage more than once. So there's definitely a lot of stuff you got to watch out for. Sideboard looks solid. Showdown is a hosing on a lot of board states. Heroes Upbringing makes sense. You got to seal Ghidorahs and things like that. Also, Heroes Upbringing versus Combined Firepower. You can seal all the firepowers in the card pool, and then your rivals' combined firepowers will count towards progressive. So that's a cool thing that I think people bring up to me once a month and I forget about it. And then learning the standards, because some moves are going to hit you and we get to ruin combos here. All in all, I think this deck is pretty cool. I'm glad Mike was in the chat to give us some insight, because there's a lot of cute little things going on here that if your brain just sees combined firepower and it, you know, you roll your eyes, then you're probably going to miss. Oh, let me get my... probably have a... Is it here? I think it's there. Alright. Yeah, the sub goal. I should probably have the sub goal up. Alright, next we got the last ever standard Sunset champ, William Anderson III. King Ghidorah on Evil. This deck's got a lot going on too, right? 71 as well. Got the firepower, but only 2. We got some barrier shield. Fierce Wings to go find them. We got Airy, which is kind of like having another head counter. Team Dr. Ichigaki. I love this card. It's a risky deck. The 100% Unleashed deck. Patrick Baby is cool. I saw this in his hand a few times. Never got to see it be super impressive, but I bet there is just a lot of different keywords, huh? Slam, we got a slam, we got an ally attack. Yeah, I could see the vision there. Breaker Fury. I think for the most part, I always like playing one villainous teamwork, both because it ignores progressive when I play it with Ghidorah, but also just you gotta bring up the asset hate, right? You gotta just go tutor asset hate. We do have a lot of nice little toolboxy pieces. Overwhelming Gravity Beam. I said it on commentary. Against these, like, these atrocious wall decks, I think you can lean on this card. I think you can play a fake throw, and if your rival is Void Rodan, they kind of have to have Spooky to deal with this. Will of Steel does not negate the damage from Overwhelming Gravity Beam, right? And I think, what's the other one? Was he all symbol D? No. Either way, the Cernidai Foundation also says if it's a throw, it deals no damage, right? So outside of like Faith Shield or I think Blue Flame, there's like a Dobby attack that's like if it has a keyword, it won't deal damage or something like that. So there are some answers to it, but I thought there were some moments where William could have kind of focused on this as a primary strategy and instead went for a more conventional string kill. And I can't say he was wrong to do that, especially once you're feeling the pressure and your rivals, you know, George is willing to be in deadlock so much. But I wanted to see this one I wanted to see this one come to the forefront against those super, super slow, no pressure defensive decks, because it's in a very weird spot right now where I think Will of Steel is one of the most common anti-throw cards, and it doesn't work here. So other than that, our 4 diffs draws cards. Only playing 3 Sword of the Darkness Flame is a little interesting, but we're trying to jam so many, cards into this deck. We got to make some concessions, and I don't blame them for running heavy on the true 100%. 3 Tri-Gravity seems like the right number, and that's kind of how I assume we're getting most of our kills here. So, what's up, Sketch? ATL was fun. We've got Sins of the Past. This is another one where Ghidorah can kind of loop this, especially once you have the overwhelming gravity beam going. If you get a little thing where it's every other turn you're playing one or the other, you can do a pretty good job of removing the risky encounters from the rival's discard pile. So that one's cool. Rifle Arm is great right now. Incompatible Quirks is great. Dissolving, so we gotta bounce those big high attacks. And we see the 4th one in the sideboard. Flight Well Spoken is a really good one here. Now, We Became More was not a card I was expecting to see, but a 0 diff that just flips for +2 damage when your character pretty much always plays something from somewhere else. I mean, Ghidorah is hungry for numbers, so I don't hate this inclusion, right? There's always, that's why I love doing this stuff, and universes in general. There's always a card out there that's worth playing that you don't play. There's always a card that you skip over because it doesn't seem impressive enough, but somebody else finds it useful. Somebody else has gotten wins with it, and this is absolutely a card I go, sometimes 2 damage. Whatever. So, if this one gave -2 damage too to a risky encounter or something, if it had +2, -2, it'd be bonkers. But yeah, we got Incubating, we got Card Draw, we've got Trusted Assistant is the same way. I play 1 or 2 of these. But if I'm willing to play Trusted Assistant, I should probably be willing to play We Became More. But yeah, this all makes sense. Galactic Monster was so funny watching him play it against George Zhang, where he's at 10 or more foundations, turn 1 almost. Turn 2 for sure. That was just turning sideways for 4 damage the whole game. And of course, you can play it from removed as well. League Invitation was cool to see again. I think this card kind of went away a little too fast. It's very Electric Jolt-esque, but what can you do? All in all, I really wonder what Williams' kill turns look like. I have to imagine they almost all involved the Tri-Gravity Beam, but I could be wrong. But Tri-Gravity into Risky is absolutely huge. I mean, that's real tough to beat. So Ghidorah being able to reliably do that combo at pretty much any turn that you give him an opening is real scary. So playing Tri-Gravity seems like the way to go. Other than that, 80% power clears away a bit too. But I don't see any other really nice combos, right? It's a lot of flow cards, and then Tri-Gravity is just great at every stage of the game. Always a Tri-Gravity and Risky. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. These are all nasty situational toolboxy cards, some card flow, but Tri-Gravity Risky is so hard to beat, and Ghidorah is the face of consistency right now. So yeah, definitely a potent combo. I'm so curious what Will's character looks like. At the Standard Sunset, he won a character card, and it's been, 2 years? A year at least? So hopefully that comes out soon, but other than that, don't expect King Ghidorah to go anywhere until they hit at least one of the cards in this deck. And I think he'll do fine even without Risky Encounter, but Ghidorah might just have to find something else to follow Gravity Beam with. But don't expect this character to go anywhere at all. Number 12 is Justin Martin on Ryukyu. So this is the all-symbol version. It's probably going to look very similar to the Earth version because we've got all of our blank cards. We're playing one impact here. which I think playing the one impact is so like risky. I'm never gonna play around it, and it's gonna hurt me at the worst time. But I think what's really interesting is we have double Spirit Blast. So this is a great way to spend momentum. We're not playing Dramatic Slash, which is the reason I personally play the all symbol, but I'm just trying to cheese out vertical maneuvering equipments. And if we're playing 4 of it and we're drawing it, a lot of the time it's probably not that important, but I do like to just bring one up, especially if my opponent like has an answer to it. So we do have double Spirit Blast instead. So I think this one's very, very cool. It gives Ryukyu a lot of the speed that she might be missing. I am not big on playing the +1 speed pumps, the talented bakers and things like that. So, and I was still playing, I think, Dragon Power, which it looks like Justin's not playing Dragon Power or talented baker. There is no speed pump outside of vertical maneuvering equipment. So the double Spirit Blast, I guess, is there to sort of make up for that, right? And double Spirit Blast works through cards like Pageant Queen. Cards like Barrier Shield will put it down to 0. And then if your rival's blocking with a +3 block mod, and they have like 1 progressive, it's still like on a 5, right? So it's kind of interesting. I wonder how important this was to the overall string-based gameplay, because it does have 2 keywords that Patchwork Baby doesn't, but if you echo it, it goes face down. So it won't work that well with Patchwork Baby. Added difficulty to True 100 is not usually what you want, but I'm not playing True 100%, and now I will. Like, now I definitely think I'm going to, because I think Ryukyu definitely struggles in like those super late gaming style situations, and combined with vertical maneuvering equipment, if your rival does still make like something impossibly fast, like Armor of the Woofit, like, you know, a Mothra, like a 20 speed Mothra attack, if you can still just rezone it to mid and hit the true 100% block, that's good enough. So I think that's really cool. Airy Smiles is a great defensive staple. Other than that, I'm very curious, what are the keywords we got? Because these are 2 of the same. Charge and Powerful and Combo. Okay, so it's not Charge, so that's 2. Fury Slam, Charge Slam. Okay, so Dragon Dive and Dragon Crash do offer 2 damage here. So we do get some more stun. We get some stun. I just feel like Patchwork Baby's not... Oh, it's EX and Powerful. I'm an idiot. I'm like trying to figure out how much can we get a Patchwork Baby to be. It's got Powerful. It is the Armor of the Wolf of the symbol. It's just a dump. I don't know why I overthought that. That's where my brain goes though, right? I want to see how can I use every part of the card, but I'm pretty sure this is just your rival gets chunked down low enough, or they block enough attacks that you can reliably dump your momentum, and having EX and Powerful means the modular stats are really, really good. So I'm overthinking this one. Patchwork Baby is how we convert all this momentum we generated into a win. Invincible Bodies are huge. Thoughtful Classmate. Now, I think this one's crazy as a 4 of. I did not expect this as a 4 of whatsoever. I have no idea. I guess it's Dragon Strike is that important, because I have tried to fit this in to almost every all symbol deck I've made, and I'm almost all like, I almost played this in my Rodan as a 2 of, and then I didn't even make it in as a 1 of because I was trying to get down to like 64, 63 cards, and he's got 4 of it. So Dragon Strike had to be the #1 target. I was picking up like focus attacks and Dragon Strikes on poke turns. So having Dragon Strike every turn is a crazy amount of control. Being able to flex that you're gonna block with it, pretty good too. So I I think this is really neat. I don't think I'd ever commit this hard to it, but you know, if you play multiples, right? If you play 2 Dragon Strikes while you have this out, man, is it? And I guess you get Patchwork Baby back too, so you can kind of test the waters. And if it doesn't work, you're like, all right, well, I still got momentum. I'm gonna bring this Patchwork back. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting because the core attacks that we associate with Ryukyu are not mids, but arguably our best attack is. So that's kind of crazy. Your Meshi Perseverance makes sense. We're always going to be able to go tutor. This is almost like another Vast Strength in a way. This is how we go get our one of Dragon Impact or whatever we need, right? Hacker makes a lot of sense. This is a card I should play more. Uh, Turn your momentum into card draw as a baseline is solid. Answering assets and just getting momentum when you get hit by one of those big attacks is a good way to start your offense. Kind of resets, always cool. Convenient timing. Now this is the other one where I think more people should play it. Like definitely, I think convenient timing is a great Ryukyu card. You pretty much always have the momentum for it, and -1 to all their checks for the turn is huge. I think that this is criminally underplayed and a great reason to play the all symbol build. Then we've got chivalrous, our zeros on the all symbol all kind of make sense here. Other than that, I guess the Patrick baby caught me by surprise. Not too much of a different deck, right, that you can build with Ryukyu. There's only so much you can do, but I really dig the 4 of Thoughtful Classmate. I think that is a new wrinkle to the deck. I think it, makes you hyper consistent. So that's pretty cool to see. But the thing I'm most curious about is a double Spirit Blast. I'm very, very curious how much work double Spirit Blast put in, because we're not playing any other speed pumps, and I'm already like low on +1 speed repeatable. So +1 speed to everything, the fake speed might be a really, really big deal. There's also always, the chance I'm missing something here. But I can't imagine what else we'd be doing. Like, we don't have any face down synergy. We don't have like a borrowed goods hiding out somewhere to work with the Echo. But yeah, Thoughtful Classmate to just play as many Dragon Strikes as possible sounds like a solid game plan. Next up, we got the only Ymir. I was surprised this character made top cuts. The narrative that life symbol can't hang is kind of real when you are playing at Smiling Titans and stuff like that, We're not even playing the Idune box. We said none of this life symbol defense. No, sir. This is an aggro deck, and I love it. I mean, it's the right call, I think. If you can't play the defensive staples, just don't play that style of deck, right? It's hard to think of the life symbol as not being a defense first deck, and I love this Besiege. I've been waiting for Besiege to kind of break out and seem busted, and I just don't really play these styles of decks too often. But whenever you put a limiter on how your rival can block, it's a great way to win a card game. It's just an absolutely great way to catch the opponent with no answer whatsoever. So I think Besiege is really, really nice, and the low difficulty for a 3 mid-4 is insane. So if you're the character that just piles on damage, and its deadlock makes it even bigger. So if you're a character that piles on damage, Besiege can just be an oops, I win through even like the biggest board state, right? This is like how you kill a Rodan in a close match when they're holding their good block mods, right? They want to block with +1s, so hit them with the Besiege. Dual Needle Lunge is the huge enabler. Mist of Despair makes a deck run, and Tetra Terra is not only the other enabler, but it can pick up Besiege or Midst, and Rewind Throttle is not one I was playing, but the more I play the life symbol, the more necessary it becomes. And especially if you're a character, again, pumps damage, the stat line is really nice. A big reason why Overhaul could use this card so effectively is, he wasn't really pumping speed. So having that 5 baseline and then he can give it the damage to make it respectable was definitely fine. but you're also just kind of hard pressed for card draw, right? You're playing Rejuvenating Smash in a really specific way. We're playing Wild Wild Pussycats as a 4 of to go get, I assume, things like New Trading Method. Where else is our card draw? Shameless Haggler? You know? We've got discard and draw, and then if our rival lets us, we get to draw another one. Yeah. So yeah, life is in kind of a weird consistency place. But I'm glad that Ymir made it, because this deck, when it's firing off, puts up such big numbers. You know, it puts up so much damage that you really do feel like you have to block everything. That being said, we don't have like any speed pump coming from the stage. And I do feel like this is a deck where I would run double Spirit Blast. This is a deck where I do think having, you know, turning the +2 speed into +3 or +4 could be a big deal. And we have dual Needle Lunge to fuel it too. So maybe that'd be a little too much Echo and you'd be fighting for the spot with Tetra there. But, you know, they made top cuts, I didn't. But, I like this deck a lot. We've got the 6 checks that block in both directions. It's a life symbol staple. The main thing I need to see from this deck, though, is we need incredible display. I feel like that's non-negotiable, especially if we're relying on evading copy, and especially one copy. I don't know. Maybe this is just my brain that wants to play defense, and I'm wrong because this deck is built to go first and to deal damage. But when we're relying on evading copy as kind of our big attack defense, and we're playing 4 number 10 pro hero and 4 syndicate target, I mean, that just helps us not worry about playing defense so hard, right? Ymir's pretty good too, right? Ymir's got the -3 speed on face once you transform, so there is that too. And we've got the last second dodge for some throw hate and a little bit more speed hate, but gosh, I don't know. The canceling of responses is also just a really big one, I feel. If you're expecting Genkai's guidance at all, right? You know, things like that. Genkai's guidance, things that respond and prevent you from having an enhanced step, can really slow down the amount of times that Ymir can gain life. Losing one enhanced step can be the difference between activating a mortal shapeshifter and Ymir, you know, multiple times for +2 or +3 damage for the whole turn, for every attack. So I would like to see something in there to put some protection. I don't know. But other than that, this just seems like a finely tuned aggro deck. It's probably the way that more Ymir players should be playing the deck into the current format. If the con of playing Ymir and or the life symbol is that you can't defend against the big high damage attacks, then let's not compensate, right? If Idun Box doesn't do enough to these printed high speed and damage moves, let's not play it, right? So I dig this as a better way to play Ymir into this format, but there could maybe still be some tricks added. The Jaw Titan attacks is kind of funny, and the sideboard, you know, maybe for the mirror. Wound Restore is also kind of crazy. I wonder how often that got brought in, or for which matchups. But Recovery Time is huge right now. Recovery Time is Life Symbol's answer, I think, truly, to 12 damage moves. You know, moves that are so big and so fast you can't block them. Well, healing, is it 4 or 5? I think it's 5, right? Oh, you gain 4 health. So, you know, gaining like a third of it back is something. Maybe it's not enough. But if this is the only card in your hand against Strike Gravity Beam, you get another chance at life. Ravages makes you discard it. You get 2 more cards. So there's a lot of stuff making a card leave your hand. And this has the correct wording, because if it goes anywhere, you get to draw 2 cards, even if it gets removed. So, and it's got Breaker 1 for, like, you know, those turns where you don't need the other responses, but you do need to play this card from your hand. all in all, just a very solid aggro shell. I can't really argue with any of the inclusions here. Shameless Haggler's our only way, I think, to activate Rejuvenating's momentum gain. Yeah. I mean, what can you do? It is a life gain card, and it does help you get through your deck. I guess the biggest thing is once we can solve Ymir's card draw problem, or Life Symbol's card draw problem, maybe it just becomes the premier aggro symbol, because we can't afford to play defense, so we might as well not try. Next up, we got Corey Hill on Biako. So I got a little insight on this deck, but not much. My local, I think, just happened to be in the area. They had some friends and family, and so they decided to hit the regional. He said something about where he wasn't even going to play referee jury. This was like a last second inclusion, so that's crazy to me. That's wild. This is like the reason to play Biako almost. This is Biako's like only defense into the format. You know, I guess if you tried to play air versions and fire versions, excuse me, I guess if you try to play air or fire, they do have like barrier shield and cape of no return. But referee jury loops, where you put one on top of your deck after you play jury, so that way when you take damage you draw a second jury, is so good. And again, I think if you watch Tim Cardwell stream, that's something that stopped him, you know, that defeated him. So 38 health combined with the inevitability of flipping the rival stage against the more defensive decks. I like Biako where he's at in the format. He makes sense. I don't know if it's really a deck that I know how to play or know how to build. I get focused on like the combo-y stuff he can do, but he makes sense if you think Rodan is a big deal. If you think risky encounters is a big deal. Biakos don't always have the biggest stages. They do when the game goes really long because they play out their whole hand, and Earth Symbol, but I digress. But they're not exactly like trying to have a huge stage as a 5-hander, right? So I think there's a lot of real estate here, just having the 38 health and saying, you know, my Thunderous Roar can punch through the more defensive decks, and my massive size can beat down on the decks that want to race me. The attack lineup's pretty out there. We've got a 2-check reshows to hyper flip. We've got the unblockable double overhead. We have throw. We got native throw to give us some ramp. We're playing warm and bubbly, which, all right, for 38 health, I'll give it to you. I think I'd like to see a different zero here, but I mean, it's, again, this is sort of like the We Became More, where if you lean into this strategy with cards like Toughest Punk, you know, you're playing Ultra Regen for sure. Like, this is more active than Quick to Act, right? This is gonna be live more often than Quick to Act is probably. So I can get behind it. I would like to see I'd like to see some incredible display again, just because we do got some nice block mods. We do got ways to pick up things to block with and loop. But also just because, again, like, responses to your foundations being flipped is pretty strong into this character. And 5-handers get absolutely destroyed by Genkais. They get annihilated by Cape of No Return and like getting 1-for-1 down attacks. So having just a tiny bit more interaction, I think, would be good. But like a one-of, just like one incredible display. Other than that, I think the Titancliff makes a lot of sense here. I think Titancliff is cool because we do have some nice 6-checks that we want to build. And it helps us go through our deck faster and fill up our discard pile faster. So I like Titancliff a lot here. Net Launcher, I think I'd rather see Canister Creation Strike. Now, Net Launcher's not a bad finisher at all. Playing 3 of it, you know, we have tons of four diffs. So playing, you know, a Net Launcher as an opener to kind of can open the rivals great, but I think Cancer Creation Strike somewhere in this list to more consistently have Thunderous Roar and even Massive Size is like the most important thing. I think having the right foundations are the most important thing, and on top of that, Cancer Creation Strike lets you build hard draw foundations very, very easily. It's very easy to get rid of a face down, and you get a 1 diff, and so, you know, getting that hand fixed, it's kind of a big deal. But all in all, I don't know 70 cards yet, because we're gonna be hardcore milling a bit. The Gargantuan Grapple, I'm very curious, because this is another one where you have to spend momentum, and I'm wondering how much he cared about that, or if this was just any throw will do, and this one just happened to have the most upside. Because Byaku's nasty with throws. We got 8 throws in this deck, in this particular build. So this is an attack I think gets skipped over a lot. I don't know if I'd put it in my Byakko, but the thing I'm curious is which of those keywords mattered the most, and why is it definitely throw? We got Michael Marshall on Aaron Yeager. We've got another mill-based death deck. So a lot of these cards are going to be the same, but we didn't forego the defense. Immortal Shapeshifter is a great way to play Death Yahtzee. Immortal Shapeshifter I think we'll see in the Irwin deck quite a bit too. Right? A character that destroys foundations makes sense. But now we can destroy a foundation that has an enters trigger, and we can check one during the enhanced step. So I really like this build because it's got a little bit of everything. This is an aggro deck that's very clearly trying to be aggressive, right? It's trying to draw the cards, be consistent. We have a lot of zeros. Do we have a 2-check? So we're trying to get a good build. We're trying to have a really solid build. Get to that 9 foundation count. Quick arrival. Okay, get a little bit of stats going. So the big thing is Aaron has no problems getting damage down, right? Easy big damage pump. But if we're not flipping the rival stage and ruining a lot using the ruin keyword, we're not really helping our attacks land. So twisting Azure Inferno's gonna solve that problem a lot. Besiege we talked about with the last one. I'm glad to see Besiege making top cut list, because this card is just gross. I'm gonna get killed by it a lot, I know, because I hate holding bad block mods, and if I hold a +3 mid block on purpose, I know they're gonna play 5 speed mids. I just hate it. I hate it. Besiege also with check hacks and you know, speed bonuses, because even if they have the +3, you can still pump the speed, right? Like, you're also being able to do math where, okay, at most they can pass it with this math. So forcing them to block with a +3 doesn't mean neglect speed pump. And that's really what this character is missing, really, to force things through. So deadlock from Vile Seizing plus twisting means you cannot go to deadlock against this deck. You will eat the penalties. Jaw Jammer for that guaranteed damage. Trace Eyes, because we're sacrificing a foundation, right? That still counts. Destroy one of your own. These all count as sacrifice. Blizzard Tail Splitter, that's our Mop Strike replacement these days. Give, you know, that pseudo speed to everything. So I like that one. And then, of course, Risky Encounter, because you got to be playing the risky. Mastermind's Apprentice is real interesting here. So this does not give us a Yahtzee trigger because it removes the foundation. But when we're ready to go all in, when we're chewing up our stage, our rival either checking a 6 or giving our attack +2 speed goes a long way, because you either get stun 1, which stacks up, or you're going to get 2 speed, which is great right now. So this one's hard to evaluate. Mastermind's Apprentice probably had a heyday that kind of got skipped. There's probably a format where this card was absolutely backbreaking. I don't know if this is the one. I don't know if this is the card I need to see. If it said destroy one for the potential of 2 speed, or you know, realistically my rival will check a 5 and commit one, I would love it. I would love it because it procs Unabashed Manner. You know, I would love it because it hits I'm with you. So I don't know. Other than that, I love the inclusion of split body control. One invincible body seems a little sketchy, but we do have 34 health. But I feel like we gotta play 2 copies. They're gonna flip one, man. They're gonna flip one or commit it. You know, like, I wonder how many times his one invincible body was drawn and how many times it got flipped or committed or even canceled before it got to be used. I don't know. The first enhance makes it feel like a unique, but trust me, I think we gotta have like 2 to 4 copies. Other than that, this is a cool take on the combined firepower. It's using a lot of just really strong, well-known death cards. It's almost like taking the best parts of a bunch of different death decks from the past, adding like Besiege and Risky to it, and just going buck wild. So very very solid, kind of all arounder. Not as aggressive as I thought, I'll be honest. I thought this deck was going to be like the Ymir list, where it's balls to the wall aggro with invincible body, but we're playing Keiko's Aid, we're playing Weapon Clash. You know, it's not 100% aggressive, but we definitely don't have too many blocking aids. We would have to hit avoiding conflict off the top, and that's it for minus speed, right? I guess Mastermind's Apprentice for -1. But yeah, other than that, very, very solid stuff. Sideboard looks good. Adaptable Anatomy for throw hate. We got learning. Got a little damage reset and asset hate. So all solid stuff. Genkai's Guidance. Come on, we could probably just put the one in the main, right? What's the matchup where we need 1 Genkai's Guidance, but only in games 2 and 3? Just, we could play the 9. It'll help your combined firepowers, because that's the biggest thing for me is the hits on combined firepower are kind of slim, right? We've got 31 out of 72 non-foundations. I think for combined firepower decks, you really are trying to have like a 50-50 foundation to non-foundation at least. At least that's my experience. It does change when you're hitting other damage pumps. You know, I'm with you kind of counts as 2, right? It's as good as 2 non-foundations. But we're also not on the full Yahtzee plan. We're not on the one, you know, all of the enters discard. We opted to play split body instead of that, right? But I wonder which one was, I guess split body was just considered more consistent. I think split body has a better feel to it because it's a punishment for your rival trying to play the game correctly. Whereas the other one, you know, loss of consciousness would probably be pretty random in this deck. You know, unless we're trying to use it defensively, or we happen to have a mortal shapeshifter out, or we randomly mill it with our character. It would probably feel better, you know, in a different deck. So very cool stuff. Not exactly what I was expecting. Not exactly a surprise. That's kind of, I think, where everyone's at with this format. We've kind of had our hands on it for long enough to know, but always some surprises. Never, you know, I could never name this attack lineup. I could never guess the Lizard Tail Splitter and the Trace Eyes, but they make sense. Trace Eyes makes a ton of sense for this character. This is a deck I could see myself playing at locals, but I'm trying to turn my brain off and just, you know, mill a bunch of cards. So I would not expect this exact lineup, but man, it comes together really well. Next up, we got David Thomas, not David Toombs. I kept seeing this name, and I saw the Rodan with it, and my brain just wanted to say David Toombs, but David Thomas. He's got kind of a mix of an older, newer build. High Velocity Slice is cool. Ice Sword Execution, classic. Gently Theft. This is really nice. I'm glad to see more Gently Theft. I was cooking on this card for a hot minute because the Deadlock is great and flash attacks are great. This attack lineup though is so heavy. It's so top heavy. 5/5/5 divs. Nothing's leaving the card pool. How many 6 checks do we have? None. No 6 checks. We've got the 1 4-check attack. So I wonder how late game these had to go. We do have the 4 combined firepower. And we have 3 Mikasa defeats the female Titan, but no 3 Eyes of Hiei to zone switch. We would just have to be flipping for one-time use. But we do have 3 barrier shield. Now, no Cape of No Return and no Genkai's main board. I gotta feel like we'd be doing a lot better with 1 Genkai's main, a Cape main. But we got 4 vertical maneuvering equipment, so we are going to see it. And Rodan's great at poking and getting momentum. Love the exhaust exclamation draws. Love the petty squabble draws. Hacker in full force. 4 rifle arm, okay. Aaron sidestep. I don't know how much I like trying to rely on random defensive draw, but it's not random with Rodan, unless you want it to be. So this one is probably a lot better than I would have given it credit for. And this card's probably better in Rodan than almost any other character. So I think this is pretty cool, and playing 4 of these in Rodan's probably not gonna feel too bad. Where's your smile now? I keep seeing this come up more and more. The response for +1 to the check is very cool and very unique. Plays with resets in a cool way. So I like that, but the main thing is we get to snipe a card from the rival's discard pile. So if they only have 1 risky or 1 combined, we can just tuck it away. And I think that's very cool. Idlework makes another appearance. Other than that, this attack lineup is just really expensive. That's my biggest fear. 4 rejuves. Seems expensive. All the 5 divs. I wonder how much High Velocity Slice did, because it is 1 momentum right now. You know, if it's your opener at least. So I'm very, very curious about that. But other than that, 4 Tri-Gravity is how we get in. And Rapid Speed Slash loves it that you try to get that fast momentum. It's got Breaker, it's got EX. All in all, I don't know if we quite have the damage. And I feel like this has to go super late game to really be effective. But I mean, Rodan's great at that. So it's a 4 vertical maneuvering equipment build. And we are going to win the speed war. We are going to completely block these attacks if Rodan has anything to say about it. Female Titan attacks is very cool, but I'm curious, what's the punch or kick that we're picking up, right? It's got to be Rejuve. We have 1 female Titan just to pick up Rejuve. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here, but there's no other backup to Ready at all. Huh. I was waiting for the inspiration to hit me, but it's to flip and go get Rejuve. I don't know. I don't hate that game plan, but I would want to see at least like 1 more versatile target for it. I don't know. Maybe some rewind throttle, right? I love me some rewind throttle. The deck has a surprisingly low amount of like traditional card draw. And I'm wondering how stuff like Petty Squabble and like Idlework played out for drawing cards. But we do have Exhausted, which is perfectly suitable for Rodan. You know, I don't know if this is staple in all the Rodans, but it probably should be. Other than that, Supersonic Flight does our card draw. So a little bit of a mix of known ways to draw and some I didn't really expect. So all in all, very cool. I like a lot of these cards in this sideboard, and I think that some of them just could make their way in, or at least Genkai's. 1 Cape, 1 Genkai's minimum. I don't know. All in all, I like the Gently Theft, and I like the I like the high velocity slice, but I feel like we could have trimmed some of these and maybe played a few more four diffs that draws cards. Um, Other than that, though, Petty Squabble was a great inclusion, and man, I wonder. I really want to see like what this deck looked like, because I feel like almost all of its wins were on Ice Sword into a Gently Theft or Try Gravity as the third attack. Like either of these would be a good third attack. So I don't know. Very very cool take on Rodan though. Next we're gonna look at Travis Tangements, and I guarantee this will not be that similar, right? We do have Gently Theft. Wait, are they the same deck? Did they play? Did I look at the wrong deck? They play. I feel like this is a mistake. Can someone confirm? I didn't think that this would be the same deck, and it's exactly the same? What? I thought Travis was doing something way different. I thought he was playing the one with the one big speed pump. He's got a video. Let me see. I'm pretty sure he did a video on his own channel. Let me go give him the click. That's... I was literally like, I don't think these are gonna be similar. Let me see. There's no way. No, it was the same? Huh. So then I wonder if David Thomas's is wrong. Interesting. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they had the same. Maybe they shared a deck list. I thought Travis was doing something way, way different. No, they played the same. Okay, that's crazy. We had two of the exact same deck in Top Cuts. That like never happens. What's hilarious is, in a sense, in a crazy sense, having two players have the exact same deck list in Top Cuts and Universes is more diverse than previous, or it's at least more rare. I'm trying to shoehorn this, but that's more rare than having like the same characters show up in Top Cuts, right? That's cool. I don't know. This is something that couldn't happen for a long time. For like the first 7 years I played this game, it was literally impossible to even have the same character in Top Cuts, much less to have the exact same deck list. So I was not expecting that. I guess, are they both on the same team? Are they both the MGLA team? Is that what it is? Is this like officially the MGLA Rodan list? Damn, that caught me by surprise. Well, I guess we don't have to talk about this one. I guess I just said everything already about it. That's really cool, though. I think that's actually really cool. It technically doesn't beat the diversity allegations, but this is the only time in recent memory that I can think of people playing the exact same card for card list. Actually exactly the same. So that's, I can't, man, the no cape, no Genkai's main. We're really just out here blocking, boys. we're just out here raw blocking. That's wild. Well, now we got all Rodan. So this has to be different. All Rodan. Got a little bit of a mids thing going with focused attack. Got the Spirit Gun Mega. Now this is one I'm scared to play. I'm scared of the 2-check. But when it goes and picks up really powerful stuff, it feels nice. We've of course got the Big Fist Bash and the Double Jumbo to get our stats. All very cool stuff. 80% power for the targeted snipe. We're not playing the Dragon Strike anymore. But we're not just flipping things. We're destroying them, right? We're sending our rival to deadlock. I think that's kind of interesting. We're not playing the Dragon Strike. We are playing the 80%. It is a better statted attack, right? It's a 6 mid 7 instead of a 5 mid 5. And so it gives Rodan just a tiny bit more kill power. It gives you a little bit more of a permanent, I guess, solution to things. It does power up True 100% too, which we only got one of, but I do win a lot of games when I play Rodan by playing this. Other than that, we got some cantrip stuff, very normal. One Sugar Rush power up is really nice, very cute. We got Supersonics, Invincible Bodies, got our Throw Hate. Are you playing any Invade and Copy main? No, it's all on the side. Okay. Split Body Control because we're not playing Dragon Strike, so we got to add a little bit more board control. One Vast Strength is cool. One Hacker. Now that's surprising. I felt bad that I didn't play Hacker at all, and I played Pass-Through Walls. Calvin is now playing one Hacker and two Pass-Through Walls. So I'm curious on what the thought process there is. Maybe getting momentum's a little too slow. He's definitely back to like a bigger deck size. I think his last version was like 65 or 66. Now we're back up to 69. I went down from his to 64. So it's kind of interesting seeing it go back up. I love pitching in. I really waffled on playing this one. But it's at the point where just putting a 4 on top is great. Checks a 6, cancels breaker. Yeah, that was my, I don't know if you watched my video. I took your shell and like modified it to be like what I thought would be faster and more aggressive. And I went, let me not play Hacker, which is what people expect, and not have a 4 check, and I'll just go aggressive on pass-through walls. Because breaker, like, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but breaker fucks up the focused attack line, right? Like, breaker is really fucking annoying to deal with when you're trying to play a 5 diff on a 7 already, maybe on an 8, right? Depending where we're at. So I was all on the plan, but afterwards I got like bopped by Ryukyu with 4 verticals out, and I was like, maybe I need a permanent solution. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, I was all here for it just because I thought this will make my deck smoother in the early game and require like less resource investment. I dig the unexpected hero here. Every deck is like discarding cards to drawing cards. It's happening like so frequently that I think this is almost just a viable commit to draw card. But then on top of that, when you get to a situation where you've got the right zone and you've added all this speed, flip for 3 damage is great. And in a pinch, it's flip for -3 speed. So this card is way more versatile right now than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for, just because of the prevalence of stuff like Botan's coaching and Pony and the Wish Hards and the Feral Shrieks. I don't think we saw too many Wish Hard and Feral Shrieks make it into top cuts because Ponies didn't, and a lot of those other decks just weren't really cooking. But this is a cool inclusion. Tried a slimmer version. Oh yeah. So I almost milled myself into an Endeavor 3. Neither of us could get going, and I was milling out faster than Endeavor 3 was. So that was not the plan. Chivalrous is huge right now. Daunting Message is very cool. Your Finish has a great deadlock. 4 floatings. We got our 0 diff with the +4 block mod. I can dig it. I like this build a lot. It's a lot more one-ups, a lot more spread out. Multiple bites to get that consistency going through, so you'll find stuff. Absorbed Energy Spirit Strike, I hope, was dumping 8 diffs. I hope you had 10 damage absorbed energy strikes all day, because this one's very funny right now. If your Smiling Titan opponent puts you to like 8 on one attack, but then you turn around and you smack them back for 11 is great. Yeah, I dig this one. We've seen the All Rodan get worked on, seen a lot of iterations, and I think you've made top cuts at every event with it. I can't remember the last time I didn't see your name playing All Rodan on a top cut list, so a lot of really good work here, man. I'm excited to see the next version. because so far I don't think I've seen you play the same version twice. There's always some new spice. Sideboard looks good. I like Psychic Spirit Glass. I'm a little surprised there's no Airy Smiles. I think Airy Smiles look good into the decks that give check bonuses right now. You know, +2 to my next check. And you can hit an Airy Smile somewhere in there maybe, but this is now the second Rodan list that's just kind of attacks and foundations and trying to play meat and potatoes universes, so not a lot of flair. I can dig it. George Zhang, the Mothra deck. This is one of the bigger surprises. That isn't that surprising. There's no way I'm talking about this whole fucking list. I'm just gonna point out a couple really nice things here. We're playing Power of Love main board, which probably did a ton of work for him. We saw it do great stuff on stream. Where is so many cards? I didn't see it. Researching the answer. He played 4 of this. The gimmick was become a 9-hander, and George succeeded. He succeeded a lot in getting this card out on stream. 84 cards, 14 attacks. Jeez. Yeah, there's not a lot to say other than Mothra doesn't get got. This character does not get bopped easily. Very rarely did we see George even have to use the Mothra enhance, but it was also very like cut and dry, where he would do really fine at like blocking all the way down, but it wouldn't matter, right? It wouldn't matter if the rival could just overcome him with too many attacks. And we saw Gamer Toga do that, and we saw well, I got to watch a little bit of it because I was walking around Top Cuts, but Broberg eliminated him with like a plethora of stun. Like the Erwin Smith deck had Frightening Calms out and was just doing so much. Sealing things. The big thing here is there's not really any repeatable speed hate. And this is something I know Earth decks have complained about a lot. And commit 1 foundation for -2 speed's not impressive. But I feel like you gotta be playing the flip commit or something. You know, Cooperation Offer is not a bad card. Again, it's not repeatable, but I feel like we got to be playing something that gives us minus speed that isn't our character or isn't like a remove. And I think the wildest part is I would still play a little bit more Pageant Queen, you know, just in case my opponent can return things to printed. It seems like we're relying exclusively on Mothra, and we saw the Dash Toward Disaster once. That was hype. Dash Towards Disaster was funny as hell, but you know, I don't know. I feel like we could have done a little bit better at stopping string decks, because it seemed like those were the ones that really took him out. The referee juries are kind of a mismatch here, but I get having it. It's a great hand trap. It helps you go through your deck faster. The stun one can be kind of a big deal when you're trying to land one big move. But the main thing is we got to see him do the Colossus's Thermal Blast for 20 speed, and I thought that was super cool. So this deck is one I think people should try to, you know, maybe modify on their own. Maybe play like a smaller version at your locals. But I think this could be a fun deck to play at locals as long as you, you know, mind your rate of play. You don't want to like prison people at locals forever, but this deck wins games decisively, right? If your turn is just build and pass and build and pass and build and pass, and then, you know, you've got like 1 or 2 really strong turns where you put massive damage on pokes. It shouldn't take too long to play this deck, but I encourage people to try something like this. We do see 4 Incredible Display. That's a kind of a -1 speed, right? We get to commit to clear our card pool of progressive. But other than that, I think you need to find a little bit more on the speed reduction side. Maybe play some vertical maneuverings and some other ways to get momentum, right? Like we have Strategic Meeting. You know, we are playing Colossus Titan, so maybe some verticals to get up in there and help you win some speed battles without having to use Mothra, right? But I was really excited to see this deck. We gushed about it quite a lot on stream while doing the commentary, and it was very cool to watch. And we got our top 4. 4th place, Jeremy Clad on Chaos Toga. This is what I was expecting. Black Abyss, Walk the Dog, Vast Hybrid. I love that the Toga decks are playing Vast Hybrid now. I don't think they were before. I don't think they were playing Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. But it's great to add to your momentum. It's an honorary weapon, you know, it still stuns something, it still commits something when you play it. We have 4 Deception Dagger though, so this is also, you know, these cards are fake difficulty. We have 12-5 diffs is a good sweet spot, and then we got a lot of 3 diffs. We got 3 diff here, we got 4 diff here. Cage of Hell. Cage of Hell and the risk encounter sounds gross. I could maybe see another rapid speed slash or 2 instead of maybe one of these 5 diffs. You know, I'm just that kind of guy, get that breaker in there, but the assets are very nice here. Little greedy, but this is, so now we're in the top 4. This is very much what I expect more decks to look like, right? This is, I was expecting to have more Cape. We got 1 Genkai in the main. We got Runaway. We got powerful interactions, you know? I didn't know exactly how to say it before, but a lot of the earlier decks in this top cut, I'm looking and I'm like, oh, we're only playing 1-0s for these answers, or, you know, our deck is all attacks and foundations and maybe 1 action, maybe 1 asset, and it's not Cape of No Return. This is way more of what I was expecting, where we've got 2 Capes, we've got 1 Genkais, we've got other ways to avoid blocking. You know, I don't know how else to put it. We got Childlike Appearances a 0 out. Just like more things that Broken Psyche is, you know, a silver bullet, I guess, answer. I was expecting more ephemeral answers, so I'm excited to see that we're now getting to that point, right? Like I was talking about with the Road Index, you know, it seemed like we didn't have any of the one-off answers, and you know, I'm expecting an asset and an action and a foundation that does it. You know what I mean? Kraken is, yeah. You need to be playing Kraken to beat Vertical, to beat VME right now, and Cape, right? Draw Your Swords is pretty cool. We've got Deft Maneuvers and Draw Your Swords, so we've got the +1 high and the +3 low version. Futile Attempts. This card's wild. I cannot believe this card got sleeved up. I'm not gonna lie. I just feel like there's gotta be a better 3 diff here on Chaos defensively, right, guys? Is there... I don't know. It's repeatable. And I don't think we're playing to block too much. But a 3 diff that's just -3 damage? I don't know. This is the most sus card in the deck. I gotta be honest. Futile Attempts is a pretty sus inclusion. I don't know how much I like it. What I do like is Chivalrous Thief. This card dunks. This card dunks hard. This card is cute with Cage of Hell. Excuse me. It's kind of gross with Deception Dagger. Because don't forget, Deception Dagger is a printed 2. I don't think anything else was, right? Yeah, it's just those 2, but still. Pick up Deception Dagger, you know, play Deception Dagger every turn as an opener is gross. It helps you kind of loop getting rid of opponents' riskies. And the discard of momentum, she's a villain, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah, she had to be. So, discard a momentum for +2/+2 on how many attacks? Slam or taunt? Is it just... It's none of them. Interesting. So this was pretty much just to hate on momentum and loop Deception Dagger? Yeah, none of these are slams or taunts. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'd include 2 of these just for that. Discard of momentum for 2/2 is pretty insanely good, especially since it doesn't require you to commit it or anything like that. I wonder what kind of slam Toga 3 could play. I don't know. But I did like the Chivalrous Thief inclusion, just to always have that Deception Dagger loop going in really, really long games, you know, against firepower decks. You might want to just go, okay, I'm going to remove a firepower until they're all gone. And that is a legitimate way to play. On top of that, though, I mean, we've got some nice cancels, some nice interaction. Got plenty of zeros. Got a little bit of card draw. Every box is checked. We've got speed reset. We got damage reset. We got anti-enhanced step. We got anti-response, you know, anti-blitz. We got anti-damage trigger, anti-momentum, anti-combo. I mean, again, this is just like a deck that is playing the heavy one-time use sort of answers, and that's really what I'm expecting from this format. So very cool stuff. I could see with 12 non-foundations here and 21 attacks maybe getting kind of jammed. I think it's exactly half. Yeah, 33. Half the deck is not foundations, and that is a little bit of a consistency scare. But at the same time, if you don't open with too many foundations, but you also get a Cape of No Return, you might be better off in this format, you know, especially going second. You might be better off considering the situation than if you had built 5 or 6. So, you know, I'm here for the powerful effects version. Next up, we have Mr. America himself, Justin Birch on Smiling. Smiling, 4 Quantumous Task main board, very simple sideboard. Battle Arena makes sense. Nothing is surprising here. There's quite a few different ways to play the deck. The Discipline Maneuver, I see people starting to play more and more. The Stun 2 matters. You get to remove a bunch of 3 diffs. You know, it's as an 8 diff 6 high 12 with Stun 2. You can think of it as an 8-12, and then with Smiling stats, it's like a 12-16, which puts it right up there with Colossus Titan attacks, right? Unexpected Outcomes is a blowout. I can't believe we're only playing 1, but I guess people don't always hold attacks. They always send them at you when you leave yourself open. Armored Titan attacks is nice. I don't like this one very much at all, but that Ruin one does seem to matter more than I want it to. And maybe more importantly than that, this helps you get a backup into play when you block with it. Excuse me. So, you know, it'll immediately let you start ruining and clear the card pool, but I don't imagine Justin was blocking more than once a turn too often. Ravages has got to be the best attack in the deck. If not, it's the throw. And then Attack Titan's Destructive Power ruins your board. Like, there's not much else to really say. I dig the Button Collector. I wonder if you ever got to draw 2 cards off of it. But the main thing is that Top Enhance basically tells your rival they have to sack a foundation. You know, there's almost never a chance you're going to let them seal 2 foundations, or else, you know, why would your rival play the Enhance? But this is most effective when your rival has only ready foundations, which, against Smiling, if you know, if all your foundations are ready and destroying one would cause you to not be able to block the rival's attack, then you can't commit any. And then on the next one, when they spend a momentum, you'd have to destroy another ready, right? So it's not too often that Justin Birch got to attack more than once in a turn. But if you do get, you know, some momentum going with the Colossus Titan attacks, and, you know, you're trying to break down a fresh open board, just saying you gotta destroy a ready foundation can have nice implications throughout the rest of the game. But I think most of this was to fix the card draw. You know, I think most of this was my 6-hander needs repeatable card draw because you cannot take a turn off as smiling. You know, you got to keep up the pressure. You got to keep it going. The longer the game goes, the more likely your rival can get into it. So I think having like consistent, repeatable card draw is really cool. And I think that the 4 Invincible Body is like the right call for this deck. Excited to see League Invitation make it back. 2 Togoro's Dominance to kill those pesky VMEs. Always cool. And Weapon Clash are our big ramps. I'm a little surprised Always Cool is here as a 4 of, but Weapon Clash is a 3 of. I think if I was playing Smiling, I'd be maxed out on ramp. League Interview as a 3 of. Is this a 68 card deck? Interesting. So this one, not really caring about its hyper consistency, but maybe we went up to 68 because we knew that there's going to be some players playing some hyper defensive Rodan decks. So I can maybe see that. Other than that, I can't see anything super surprising other than no Genkais at all. I think Genkais is definitely something to include in this deck. I think once you get past like excuse me. I think once you get past like turn 3 or 4, it's very easy to build back up for this character. I know destroying 3 foundations seems like it's going to make it hard to play these high difficulty attacks, but it really shouldn't be, especially if we're hitting our league interviews and stuff like that. So all in all, I don't know. I think the 4 Koenma's main is kind of correct, but the lack of Genkais is not. Other than that, I don't know what else you could really change or say. I mean, Smiling Titan's gonna do what they do. Nothing, I don't see any like obvious inclusions missed. But let's look at Andrew Porat's version, which got one step closer to the dream. And so this one's playing Smiling Titan attacks. It functions a lot like a Invincible Body, but this one's also got Duplicitous to go find it. So this was kind of important for Andrew because he's playing this in a different way. So Invincible Body can be flipped, sealed, committed as a foundation, but it's a little harder to interact with a backup. It's a little bit more difficult to answer this backup, so it's a little bit better at soaking one attack. The rival still gets damage triggers, they still get enhanced steps, so it's not perfect, but Invincible Body doesn't prevent them from getting enhances and could very easily lead to them pumping it after and still getting a damage trigger. So I think it's kind of interesting. We do have like momentum hate, which I don't think the other Smilings ever seem to have. You're gonna get hit a lot playing this BV 6-hander who's got to build a lot of foundations if they want to play more than one attack. So the momentum hate is probably a little more relevant than it should be. Beast Titans call in this version, so we can go find our Colossus Titans, and we have 4 unexpected outcomes, and this I think is the best attack. I think this is the fastest one that Smiling has. It has the biggest blowout potential. Any attack that has some kind of defensive application that you want to use against Smiling is now a liability. So I don't know. I think this one is really, really good. But no Genkais in the main again. No Genkais or K-Task or Heroes Upbringing. Oh, Justin Birch didn't have Heroes Upbringing either. But, we're going for attacks and foundations. Meat and potatoes. Meat, potatoes. Smiling Titan's kind of wild. But I will say Fighting for Control is another one that I think Justin could have really used. Actually, did he have it? I didn't see it. I could be wrong. Let me double check. Let me see how similar these are. Yeah, so the League Invitation was really nice, but I like the Fighting for Control here. Fighting for Control is good against string decks that play lots of attacks, and it's good against decks that play the really big attacks. It's not good against decks that poke. It's not good against decks that play one regular difficulty attack and pump it up a lot. So I can see why it might not. It wasn't super good before, but I think right now, considering the lengths that people have to go to get their wins, I think fighting for control makes it almost impossible to deal all of one character's damage in a single turn. You know, unless you're really on the, you know, like a one shot, 5 difficulty, powerful attack or something. I don't know, but that's what Invincible Body's for. We do see 4 League Interview. Definitely got to get the consistency going. We got the Botons only at a 2, which is a little sus, but we don't need spams. We have only 4 checks. So, failed role model is a great way to touch our rivals aboard. All in all, if I had to compare the two, it looks like Justin's was more concerned with like the resource game, because we've got the Ruin side on Armored Titan. We've got 4 Discipline Maneuver to get more stun going. And this one's not, yeah, this one's not playing any stun. Oh, we have stun 1, but we don't have the stun 2. So I think Justin's didn't have the big major value turns that Andrews has, because Beast Titan's call to hit a Colossus Titan or a Smiling Titan is pretty nice, you know. But you know, other than that, I think the biggest thing Justin's version is missing is it's missing better board interaction. Because like, yeah, League Invitation is either commit to or I commit, one of my choice. But it's still giving them a choice, right? And on the flip side, fail role model says seal it. So I choose the foundation, you don't get a choice. I think it's just like overall the cleaner answer. And it does trend the curve down a little bit more, so you can get a lot of 2 diffs built on your early turns. But the biggest thing is this meeting Hanji. This is a deck that wants to build a ton of foundations to get ramped out, to be able to play 2 big Titan attacks. Like, that's the goal, you know. If our rival has 1 answer, we got to make him have 2. And so meeting Hanji looks like a great way to get to that game plan. I'm surprised that we're on 2 Invincible Body and 2 Hanji, and not like 4 Body and 3 Hanji or 4 Hanji, just because, you know, similar to, again, latent skill in the past and you know, older versions of the death decks, our card draw is kind of weird. Settling Old Debts is a good one. Botons, we're only running the 2 of. Display of Might works when you block, which is great. So maybe Display of Might is giving us enough card flow that Hanji's not that impactful, but this is a card that lets you build to 0 and then draw 2. You know, this is a deck that lets you, or this is a card that lets you play like greedy and more consistent at the same time. So I like the inclusion a lot. And the 4 struggling with studies makes me think that we're blocking a little bit. I don't know though. 4 weapon clash seems right. Again, I think we talked about Justin's had, what, 3? But we want to max ramp. These cards are actually here for ramp in this deck. And the defensive applications are just a nice comeback mechanic. Always cool is a nice comeback mechanic for this deck, but realistically, I think you want to be ramping turns like 2 and 3 with these cards. Just so that way, once your rival does let you pay for an attack before they Genkai's it, you know, or they cape it away, these cards will allow you to be able to pass those checks a little bit better. Which again, we saw on stream how one little commit a face-up foundation kept Broberg alive for multiple turns, right? So let's ramp above those. Broberg not attacking was preventing, I think it was Justin, right, from flipping those weapon clashes. I can't remember if it was semis or finals, but there was face-up weapon clashes that just stayed face-up for like 3 turns until the Smiling Titan player committed them out like face-up, you know? And it's because Broberg wasn't giving them an enhanced step to ramp on his turn. So we got to get these out early, and we got to utilize them like ASAP. 4 Keikos is nice. All in all, not super different, but I think the Beast Titan's call and I think the 4 unexpected outcomes are just kind of the right call here. The EX is huge. EX spend momentum, get like a gross amount of speed is actually really, really good for closing games out. And then unexpected outcomes is just like the biggest blowout in the game right now. But the lack of battle arena, the lack of mainboard action is still surprising to me. It doesn't have that plethora of one-time use defense I was talking about. But I don't know. I dig this version a little bit more than Justin's. I think the choices are it's a little more committed to it, right? We're committed to four ofs. We're committed to the same cards. This just seems like a more consistent version rather than a version that's trying to maybe go out of its way to have answers and redundancy to stuff that it doesn't need to. But see, on this side, I like the 4 invincible body and I like the button collector. So I don't know. I'd have to actually play this character a lot more to decide which one I think is really better. But Smilings are this close to grand finals, but there's only one gatekeeper, one savior of the format. And that's Erwin Smith. So I'm sure Broberg's talked about this on, I think it's UK versus. I definitely can't tell you all the stuff that's going on with this deck because it's everywhere. But this is another deck where it's easy to watch it play once, see combined firepower come down, see risky encounter come down and go, oh, well, we're doing the same thing the Toga deck was doing. And it's just not really how it is, not doing what the Aaron Yeager deck was doing, like, at all, right? Like, I don't even think... Let me double check on the Aaron deck because it's a Death Mill deck, right? And it's got the combined, but the outside of risky encounters and twisting. Oh no, they're both playing Vile. All right, they're both playing Vile, but there's no Tri-Gravity for Aaron. No Trace Eyes or Lizard Tail for Erwin. So outside of twisting and Vile and risky, they're not super similar. I don't know. I might be coping, but it's easy again to glaze over and just see like, oh, I have mill effects and get upset. But shrewd observations, I think, is actually the thing that was making Erwin look super impressive to me. And I don't even know how often Broberg got more than one of these out, but because you can sacrifice foundations in different ways, this is like strictly better than a lot of the other -1 speed but like repeatable things. So you can get multiple triggers of this during the same attack, which is kind of like that eye-opening moment where you're like, oh, he got -1 speed and then he did it again and then he did it again. So not a lot of one diffs can really like pull this weight, and when you get them in doubles and triples, they're better than most foundations, especially stat pumping ones that are good in doubles and triples and quadruples. So this was the eye opener when I first saw it on stream. Frightening Calm also makes this deck go absolutely insane. Makes it so hard to wall this deck out. I mean, you've got the Deadlock for -2 to checks. You've got the minus check from Twisting Azure coming in. You've got Deadlock's stun 3 for late game to go with the Frightening Calm. Like, it's difficult to defend against this deck. The big thing is the firepowers and the riskies, and even to a lesser extent the battle aura releases of the world, like, fuel themselves, right? You might think that like Twisting Azure is difficulty getting to the damage it needs to, but it doesn't. And battle aura release doesn't really have a problem getting to 8 damage. So a lot of these attacks that are just waiting for speed to punch them through, are just kind of like overly capable, right? They're putting damage on themselves, so you don't have to. So instead of playing a damage pumping death character, let's play a speed pumping one. So I thought that was a pretty unique take. If you guys listened to Orange Card, Blue Card before the event, I brought up the ambition of Erwin Smith and said, I don't know why I don't see more of this card. And then we looked at the characters who have Death in order, and it's basically just Shigaraki 3 and Erwin Smith. And I was like, damn, Erwin Smith looks way more playable now. So I don't know if that's foreshadowing or not, but I definitely brought this card up as like something that we should be seeing more often in the format. And it's just because playing a seven-hander is a big risk right now. But you know, the speed reduction and the rebuilding the wall, like it's almost like it's free, right? Like every third one is free. But if you're sacrificing for other things and or dealing damage, it's a little bit more than every third foundation you sacrifice is free. So it's kind of weird math to do. I love combining enormous acts with all the characters that sacrifice the foundation. It just feels nice to feel like it was free for once. Aaron's Trial was probably the biggest thing we saw that was a game-changing surprise. You know, something that came from the order symbol that the other Death Yahtzee decks can't do unless they also have order. The other one, of course, being Ambition of Irwin Smith. And I think that's it for attuned order cards. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Smiling Death came out of the sideboard. I didn't realize this was a sideboard card at first, but we saw this come out of the sideboard a couple of times, you know, so it's very, very cool to see a seven-hander on top. It's very easy, again, to look at combined firepower and poo-poo where we're at, but as much as I'd like to see it get hit, I don't think it's definitely not going anywhere until the other regionals are over. Sorry, I just got hit by massive deja vu. I feel like I've done this, talking about a first place deck that has 4 firepower, 1 Genkai's, 1 showdown. I don't know. I'm in a weird spot. I just got like the craziest deja vu. But so again, this is more of what I was expecting, where we've got powerful actions. We've got at least 1 asset, but there's no other silver bullet card, right? Like we can bring in more Genkais, and we did see the farewell between friends come in from the sideboard quite a bit, but we don't have decoy duplicate. The symbol doesn't have you know, any other ways to yeet an attack like cape, and we don't see any copies of Invincible Body, and that's got to be the biggest surprise to me. So the random hits of I'm with you for minus damage, combined with crude observations for Irwin to absolutely tank the speed. I mean, we saw insane speed reduction numbers, and like looking at the deck list, I can't imagine how we did it. You know, we have like 1 minus speed foundation, and we have -2 speed from our character. But that -1 speed foundation is so repeatable that we were watching -5, -6, -7 damage come down. It's just, or sorry, not damage, speed. It's so crazy to think about, because looking at the list again, you're like, wow, man, how do you ever survive a Smiling Titan attacking you and sending a 12/12 at you? And the answer is you build turn 2. The answer is they get to hit you the one time, but after that you can stabilize and you can get enough just like raw defense and staging area power and stage power to fend them off. So it's really crazy. I don't know if you could ever have that kind of a run again. I mean, we even saw Ice Sword Execution take out 3 shrewd observations at one point, you know, and this deck had an amazing run. It's kind of sad that the offense really feels like it boils down to play Twisting Azure, get the checked bonuses, and end up with a risky. But I mean, that's the format, man. He's playing the good cards, and we're doing it with a little bit of differences, you know, a little bit of difference from other cards. I mean, the shrewd observations is probably the biggest difference. There's like no one else playing this card. Very few other decks probably even can effectively. But other than that, it's a lot of just like value being generated by both Irwin's sacrifice and combined firepower. There's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of instances in this deck where a little bit goes a long way. You know, 1 showdown goes a long way. 1 Genkai's goes a long way. Where was it? 1 Aaron's Trial went a super long way. So this deck, I was not watching it crush too many people. I think the George Zing matchup was a little one-sided, but it was so good at winning those close ones, you know. And I mean, even on stream, even in the, I think it was the finals, we saw the double back-to-back farewell between friends check. That's rough. I mean, I don't know. He probably could have known if he looked through his whole deck, but it didn't matter in the end because Kevin won the whole thing. So can't imagine a better player to take it all home. This deck, I expect to see a lot of people playing Irwin now. If you ever played Eraserhead, if you ever played Momo, you can play Irwin. It's really not too different, but yeah, I thought this deck was really cool. It was cool to watch the run. And I still, like, again, just looking at it here, I can't believe it survived the Smiling Titans, but I saw it with my own eyes. I saw him do it with my own eyes. He just had that big of a stage. You know, we had that big of a stage. We had the Aaron's trials, and we got just the right amount of stun to survive. It was, man, it was quite the run. I think most people open their Irwin deck and they immediately just jam the Wall Maria's Might as a 4 of. Only playing the 2 here is probably correct. I've drawn a lot of cards off Wall Maria's Might and then not really been able to do anything with it. On the other hand, these are all like 4 diffs, and Attack Titan Emerges is almost like a 2 diff. And this might secretly be the best attack or the best card in the deck. I mean, Risky Encounter almost definitely is. But for Irwin, this generates a counter. It lets you destroy a committed foundation and build a ready one. And it's just got to be less than the sacrifice card's difficulty. So not immediately one less, but any less. And this goes so good with Enormous Axe. It works on block. It's after you play this card. And if you look, this is kind of a Rochester special. There's only 9 low blocks in this deck. This is one of our best low blocks. So, I don't know. I mentioned a lot of my locals looked at this card specifically for the low block. And I was going crazy, like, read the text, you know. And they're like, it's the zone we need. So, yeah, 9 low blocks. I'm telling you guys, you want to beat these Rochester dudes, you gotta attack the low zone. Spam the low zone. This is like the second or third time a Rochester player won an event or went deep in an event with like sub 10 low blocks. So we gotta get the hashtag zone overload strat going. But other than that, this deck is a million little pieces. You'd almost have to talk about like every card. It's a million little pieces that all come together. None of it is super foreign, right? None of this is super surprising. But the combination of it is surprising. The combination of all these known pieces under the Irwin banner that I don't think anyone was really expecting is really cool. I'm surprised the Grenadier Bracers don't make it as a 1-of in the main board. I'm very surprised that they are kind of considered like a solution to a problem, right? He's citing them. So I imagine these are for like the Mothra decks of the world, where once you can get them to want to block a bunch of attacks before you bracers, you can get to a point where Risky plus bracers should just be like 30 plus damage easy, you know, easily with this character, destroying foundations, every single attack, getting things going. Again, we talked about it on defense, destroying multiple foundations during the same attack for defense. We're probably going to do that for offense too. We're probably going to be chewing it up a lot, and so that Grenadier Bracers is going to tick way up. So very interesting. I did not expect that it was in the sideboard, but I also know that it's kind of meant for those matchups where you're only going to hit somebody once and you better make it count, right? So very cool stuff. Was an amazing run, a lot of crazy moments. I hope to have some video edits coming up soon, so shout outs to Uncanny Girl for preserving the ATL regional. But man, what do you guys think? Was this the best deck in the event? Was this the coolest deck in the room? Which of these decks was your favorite? And if you're gonna net deck them, let me know. Other than that, I had an absolutely wonderful time. I'm so glad I got to be a part of it. So thank you to Universus Games. Thank you to all the players who showed up and made this all possible. All of it was really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see the future of deck building, man, because you can take a lot of like known puzzle pieces and you can still put together something pretty remarkable. The little differences I think really did matter. right? The ambitions of Irwin Smith. Didn't see too many other frightening calms. Like, just a little bit of ways that the character operates, I think, really made the difference. So this deck was very, very cool. I'm glad I got to see it, and I don't know. I'll see you guys in the next YouTube video.